In this video, I'll demonstrate how to use the sheet view to organize and format your report elements. This video is part of a series, so if you've not already done so, I would recommend beginning with the two previous videos, Introduction to Reporting and Report Elements. I have opened the ELISA protocol we were working with in the previous video. I've already calculated data, and you can see that all of my report elements are contained on a single sheet. In order to reorganize and separate my data, I can use the sheet name settings under Properties, Report tab. Now I can go through each of these report elements and designate which sheet I'd like for the information to appear on. First, I'd like my evaluations, validations, and sample table report elements to appear on a sheet named Results. So I'll type that into the sheet name setting for each. I'd like my standard curve fit element to be contained on a separate sheet named Fit. I'd like both of my histograms to appear on a sheet named Histogram. I'd like my matrix table, matrix view, and layout to appear on a sheet named Matrix. And finally, I'd like my text and notes report elements to appear on a sheet named Information. Let's recalculate to see how our report has changed. Now on our report, you can see along the bottom of the screen the separate sheets containing the information we specified. If we were to open the reports in Excel, you can see that the sheet format is maintained in Excel as well. This can be particularly helpful if you have a lot of report elements and it can simplify data navigation. There are some additional changes I'd like to make. Those changes can be configured again under the Properties, Report tab. And first, I'd like to add a sheet that contains only a sample table with my unknowns, their concentrations, and the percent CVs. I'd like this to be the first sheet on my report as it will function as a summary sheet. To do that, I'll add an additional sample table report element. Even though we already have a sample table report element, you can add as many as you like and configure your data as desired. So for the sample table 2 report element, I will choose to exclude positions and sample icons and limit the sample types to only unknowns. I'll assign the sheet name Summary and move this element to the top of my report elements list. This will cause it to appear first. Also, if we go back to our report, you can see a lot of decimal places being reported for some of our matrices. We can easily update our numerical formatting under Properties, Matrices tab. And while these settings are specific to the matrices as opposed to the report element, some of the changes here will impact the report contents. For each of these matrices, we can choose to define the numerical formatting. We can specify the precision and the type, either decimal places or significant figures. For example, on my blank corrected matrix, I'd only like to see 3 decimal places. So I'll set the precision as 3 and the type as decimal places. I'd like to do the same for my concentration matrix. And for my percent CV, I only need to see 2 decimal places. I can also include value bars, and I'd like to do that for my percent CV and for my concentration matrices. I can do that by clicking this checkbox and optionally changing the color. On Beyond the Matrices tab, you can also define which matrices will appear in which sample tables and matrix tables. For example, on my Summary tab, I would like my sample table to only contain the concentration and %CV matrices. I can remove the raw and blank corrected from that sample table by selecting the matrix and using the Sample Table IDs drop-down box to deselect Sample Table 2. We can also use these settings to define which matrix tables you'd like to include the matrices in. Let's recalculate again. Now on our report, we can see the addition of the summary sheet containing Sample Table 2, which only has sample IDs, their concentrations, and the %CV. You can also see the changes we made to the numerical formatting for these matrices, as well as the addition of the value bars. Now that I'm happy with the information contained on my report and the organization using the sheet view, I'd like to configure my report to be printed. By switching to the page view, I can view my report as it will be printed, and you can see that my report is rather long, and the content in some cases spills across multiple pages. Please view the subsequent video in this series to learn how to optimize your report using the report template and page view functionality. If you have any questions about configuring your report in a sheet format, please email us at support@myassays.com.